The great chamber of the Galactic Academy floated above the clouds of Eris Prime, a shining city world known for its learning and peace. Inside the glass dome, hundreds of young cadets from many worlds gathered for the Interspecies Diplomacy Program, a project meant to unite the galaxy's brightest minds. Among them stood a quiet human named Ryan, tall and calm, his eyes always studying, his voice rarely used. He had joined the program with pride, representing Earth, a small planet that had entered the galactic community only 50 years ago. Most species still saw humans as newcomers, emotional and unpredictable. Across the hall, Mira of Tareth, a silver-skinned diplomat from a respected world, led a group of alien students. Her people were known for logic and elegance. She had little patience for what she called emotional species. To her, feelings were weakness and control was strength. That morning, the cadets were to present their ideas on unity between civilizations. The hall shimmered with lights as each group took the stage. One after another, alien students spoke in clear tones, presenting plans for trade, communication, and shared defense. When it was Ryan's turn, he stepped up with quiet confidence. He spoke simply. Unity begins with respect. Every world has something to give, something to learn. Even the smallest planet can shine if others don't cover its light. His words were gentle, but they carried meaning. Many nodded thoughtfully, but not Mira. She laughed softly, shaking her head. Her voice was smooth, but her words cut sharp. Respect? She said. You speak of respect, human, yet your kind still struggles to live beyond your own world. You rely on others for your ships, your medicine, even your food in space. How can a child species speak of unity when it still crawls among the stars? The room went silent. Even the air system seemed to pause. Ryan didn't answer right away. His face stayed calm, his eyes steady on her. Everyone waited for him to respond, expecting anger or defense, but he only said one sentence. You mistake silence for weakness. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. The echo of that sound stayed in the hall long after he was gone. Days passed. The academy continued its classes, and the students pretended to forget the moment. But whispers began to spread. Some said Ryan had left the program in shame. Some said the humans had withdrawn him from the project. Others said he had been reassigned to a secret post beyond the outer rim. Mira heard every rumor, but none gave her peace. She told herself she had only spoken truth, that humans were too emotional, too young in galactic terms. But something in Ryan's calm gaze haunted her. She had faced anger before, but never silence that deep. One night she found herself alone in the academy gardens. Artificial lights made the leaves shimmer in shades of blue and silver. She looked up at the stars, thousands of them, and wondered which one was his home. Why does it bother me? She whispered. He was just a human, but even as she said it, the words felt empty. Years rolled into decades. The galaxy changed, as it always did. Empires rose and fell. New trade routes opened. The Galactic Council expanded, bringing more worlds under its law. Yet one small detail began to draw quiet attention. Humans had become silent. They no longer sent diplomats to the academy. Their representatives withdrew from the main council. Human ships rarely crossed the inner systems anymore. They stopped trading their simple but useful inventions, stopped sharing their data. Some said Earth had turned inward. Others believed they were preparing for something. No one really knew. For Mira, now older and serving as a diplomat herself, the silence of humanity felt like a shadow at the edge of every meeting. She still remembered Ryan's face, that calm expression that had no anger, only understanding. 28 years after that day in the academy, Mira sat inside the council spire on Eris Prime once again. She was now the chief envoy of Tareth, respected across many worlds. But even with her achievements, something felt incomplete. That morning, the council had received strange reports. Entire pirate fleets in the outer bands had vanished. Stations that once sent distress signals were suddenly silent. Sensors detected massive energy surges near uncharted systems, but no known ship designs matched the readings. The council debated for hours. Some feared a new enemy, others suspected ancient weapons awakening. Mira listened, silent, her mind drifting. Her assistant, a young Terenthian named Ciro, leaned close and whispered, "Do you remember, Chief? The humans once had colonies near those systems?" Mira blinked. Humans? Yes, Saro said. But they abandoned those sectors decades ago, perhaps. Perhaps they returned? Mira almost smiled. Humans returning? After nearly 30 years of silence? I doubt it. Still, something stirred in her. A memory, a voice. You mistake silence for weakness. Later, as the meeting ended, Mira walked alone through the spire's observation corridor. The stars beyond the glass stretched forever, brilliant, cold, unchanging. Yet one cluster drew her eye, a faint pattern near the rim of known space, marked in council maps as the human expanse. She remembered when humans had been eager learners, reaching out to every race, trading knowledge, seeking friendship. They had wanted to prove themselves. The galaxy had mocked them, laughed at their optimism, and slowly pushed them aside. Had they given up, or had they simply chosen not to be seen? Mira couldn't shake the thought. That night, she accessed old academy records, pulling up Ryan's file. The screen showed his image, and young, calm, serious. His record listed no family, no location after his withdrawal. The final note was short. Status: inactive, unknown assignment, unknown. For 28 years. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she whispered, "Ryan, where did you go?" Far away, beyond the reach of the council's sensors, a fleet moved in the dark. Ships of unfamiliar design glided through the void without sound or light. Their hulls reflected no signal, their drives left no trace. Yet they moved with purpose, like a hand closing around something unseen. Inside one of those ships, a man stood at the viewing port. His uniform bore no insignia, only a simple patch, a hand surrounded by 7 stars. It was Ryan. His face had changed little with age. The same calm eyes, the same silence. But behind him, the command deck buzzed with quiet activity. Human officers, alien partners, all working together with focus and precision. One officer turned to him. "Commander, the Vexar Dominion fleet has entered the outer system." "Orders?" Ryan looked at the stars, then spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Proceed as planned. No warnings, no negotiations. Silence is our message." The ship's engines flared to life. Back on Eris Prime, Mira woke suddenly from a restless sleep. The stars outside her window flickered as if touched by some distant storm. For a moment, she thought she heard something faint, a hum, like a whisper through the void. She stood by the window, her reflection looking older, wiser, but still haunted. She had insulted a human 28 years ago. He had chosen silence, and now, that silence was returning. Not empty, but full of something vast and powerful. She didn't know it yet, but the galaxy was about to remember the name it had forgotten. Humanity. The peace that wrapped the galaxy for many decades was never strong. It was only quiet. Beneath that quiet, tension moved like slow fire under the surface of glass, and when the fire finally broke through, it burned across stars faster than anyone imagined. It began at the edge of the known galaxy. A trade convoy vanished without a signal. Then a mining station stopped sending reports. Within a month, 10 colonies were gone. Empty, silent, destroyed. The Vexar Dominion, a warlike empire from the deep void, had returned. The Vexar were not new to the galaxy. Centuries ago, they had been driven into the dark after endless wars. Everyone believed they were extinct. But now they were back, with fleets larger than anything seen before, built with dark metal that absorbed light and energy alike. Their ships entered systems without warning, cutting communication lines, enslaving worlds, and moving on. Their logic was simple: strength rules and mercy is a lie. The Galactic Council called for an emergency session. In the Great Spire on Eris Prime, delegates from 100 species argued and shouted. The meeting lasted days, yet they found no solution. "Send all fleets to the front," shouted one voice. "No, protect the core systems," shouted another. "Request aid from neutral empires. Negotiate. We can reason with them." But deep inside, everyone knew they were not ready for a war like this. Their fleets were scattered. Their technology was strong but divided. Every world defended only itself. The idea of a united defense had never been tested. Mira of Terith, sitting among the senior diplomats, listened to the chaos. She was calm, but worry pressed at her chest. Every report, every transmission spoke of the same horror: complete defeat in minutes. The Vexar were not fighting battles. They were cleansing the stars. As the council argued, another report arrived, this time from a far-off outpost near the outer bands, close to the systems once claimed by humans. The message came through half-broken, full of static. Massive fleet approaching. Unknown origin. Not Vexar. Then silence. At first, many assumed it was another attack. But then came strange reports from the Vexar front lines themselves. An entire Vexar battle group, over 50 ships, had been destroyed. Not by the Council's fleet, not by any known power. The remains of their ships drifted in silence. Sensors detected radiation signatures unlike anything in the known database. Then, hours later, another Vexar fleet vanished the same way. And another. The Council's fear turned into confusion. Who was fighting the Dominion? Who had such power? The only clue came from a single scout drone that managed to survive a battle. Its final recording showed dark space, flashes of light and a shadow moving through the stars. Silent ships with no banners, no markings. Only one symbol flashed for a second before the drone was destroyed, a white hand inside a circle of 7 stars. When Mira saw the recording, her heart stopped. She remembered that symbol. She had seen it once, 28 years ago, on the old jacket of a human cadet named Ryan. It was the mark of Earth's Exploration Division. But that symbol had not been seen in decades. Humanity had disappeared from the Council, from the trade routes, from the colonies. Could it be them? Could they have built this fleet in silence? She didn't say anything in the Council chamber, but the thought refused to leave her mind. That night she stood on her balcony looking up at the stars. Wind from the sky towers brushed against her face as lights from the city below glowed softly. The stars above were calm, yet she knew that beyond them war had already begun. She whispered, "Ryan, is this you?" The war spread like fire. The Vexar destroyed everything in their path. The Council's fleets tried to resist but failed again and again. In one system, the Vexar cut through a defense line of 70 ships in under an hour. In another, they used a new kind of weapon that turned entire planets into dust. For the first time in hundreds of years, fear returned to the galaxy. And yet, wherever the Vexar struck, strange stories followed. Stories of a silent fleet appearing from nowhere, saving colonies, then vanishing before anyone could even send thanks. Refugees spoke of ships that moved faster than light itself. Of voices that came through the radio only once, calm, human voices saying, "You are safe now." But when Council scouts tried to trace them, they found nothing. No trails, no bases, no transmissions, only wrecked Vexar ships and empty silence. In one secret meeting, Mira spoke before the High Council. "I believe the fleet is human," she said simply. The others turned to her in disbelief. "Humans?" One delegate laughed. "They left our council decades ago. They had no great power, no fleets, no influence. What could they have built alone?" Mira met his gaze calmly. "You all said the same thing 28 years ago. You said they were weak. You mocked them. We all did." The chamber went quiet. The memory of that arrogance hung in the air like a shadow. "If it truly is them," another diplomat said, "why would they fight for us now? We gave them no reason to return." Mira replied, "Because they are human, and they remember." Across the galaxy, the mysterious fleet continued to act. They never joined the Council's armies, never sent diplomats. But every time the Vexar attacked, the silent fleet was there first. In one battle near the Epsilon Rift, 3 Vexar dreadnoughts faced an unknown human carrier. The Vexar opened fire with antimatter cannons, but the shots bent away in midspace, like hitting invisible walls. The human carrier's response was a single pulse of white light. When the flash ended, the dreadnoughts were gone, no explosion, no debris. Just gone. The transmission from that battle lasted only 30 seconds. The final frame showed a human standing in front of a large screen, giving one order: proceed in silence. The name listed on the command log made Mira's heart skip when she saw it later: Commander Ryan Solis. For the first time in many years, Mira felt tears in her eyes. The boy she had insulted so long ago now commanded the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. And yet, his fleet was not one of conquest. It was one of protection. He never attacked first. He never demanded reward or recognition. He only struck to defend others, then disappeared again into the dark. The galaxy began to whisper his name, some in awe, some in fear. The Vexar called him the Ghost Commander. The refugees called his fleet the Hand of Saul. To Mira, he was still Rian, the silent human who had once spoken of respect when no one listened. Weeks later, the Council's situation grew desperate. The Vexar began moving toward the core systems, ready to strike Eris Prime itself. The Council called all remaining fleets to defend the capital. They knew it was hopeless. As the enemy fleet approached, thousands of people prepared for the end. The sky above the city darkened as defense shields powered up. Mira stood at the spire's top level, watching through the observation glass. The sight filled her with both fear and calm acceptance. Then the alarms changed. The incoming threat disappeared from sensors. The sky cleared. The operators stared at their screens in disbelief. "They're gone," one whispered. "The entire Vexar armada, gone." Before anyone could speak, a single transmission came through every channel across the capital world. The image was blurry, full of static, but Mira recognized the voice. It was Ryan. "Peace does not come from words," he said. "It comes from what we build when no one believes in us." Then the signal cut off. The council chamber exploded with questions. Who were they? Where were they from? How had they done it? But Mira said nothing. She only whispered to herself, "He never needed to prove anything to us. He only needed time." In the weeks that followed, the Vexar were pushed back to the edge of known space. The mysterious fleet hunted them silently, always one step ahead. Every battle ended the same way, quick, clean, final. Yet even after saving worlds and ending wars, the humans never revealed themselves fully. They left no bases, no open communication, no demands. They only left messages behind, written in the stars. One such message was found near the ruins of a Vexar outpost, carved into the metal of a destroyed ship. Silence is not absence. It is preparation. When Mira read those words, she closed her eyes and smiled sadly. The human who once stood in silence before a crowd of proud aliens had returned, not with anger, but with quiet power. The same silence that was once mocked now guarded the galaxy, and for the first time in centuries the Council realized the truth. Humanity had never disappeared. They had simply been listening. For the first time in decades, the galaxy began to whisper the same name again, humanity. But the whispers carried both wonder and fear. No one knew where the humans had come from. No one knew how they had built such ships or what worlds they now called home. They had vanished in silence, and now that same silence had returned with unstoppable force. The Vexar Dominion, once feared across the stars, was in retreat. Their fleets crumbled against weapons no one understood, blades of light that sliced through armor, pulses of energy that folded space itself. Every battle ended before it began. Yet the fleet that destroyed the Vexar never stayed. They came, saved, and left. No message. No alliance, no demand, only one mark. A hand inside a circle of 7 stars, glowing faintly on the hull of their ships before vanishing into the dark. On Eris Prime, the Galactic Council struggled to make sense of the new reality. Every species sent scouts and diplomats trying to reach these silent protectors. None succeeded. But one person had no doubt who led them, Mira of Tareth, the once young diplomat who had mocked a human cadet 28 years ago, now sat at her desk, staring at a message on her screen. It was a recording taken by a damaged communication drone from a recent battle in the outer bands. The image was grainy, filled with static, but the voice that spoke was clear. "Proceed in silence," it said. Her heart stopped. She knew that voice. It was Ryan. The same Ryan she had insulted in the Academy's grand chamber. The same Ryan who had walked away without anger. The same Ryan who had disappeared and taken his people into silence. Now he commanded a fleet that could change the balance of the galaxy. That night, Mira walked through the quiet gardens of the Council Spire. Above her, twin moons hung low over the glass sky. She remembered the Academy all those years ago, the way Ryan had stood alone as she and others laughed. She whispered softly, "You were right, Ryan. Silence was never weakness." Her assistant, Sero, found her there. "Chief Mira, the Council requests your presence." "The human fleet has just sent a transmission directly to us." She froze. "What? Are you sure it's from them?" "Yes, it came through a hidden frequency." "Only 3 words. What words?" she asked. Sero looked uneasy. They said, "Prepare for contact." The next day, the galaxy held its breath. Every communication relay across the Council's territory went silent at the same hour. Then slowly, a signal appeared on every major screen in every system. A calm, steady signal from deep space. A voice spoke. It was human, quiet yet powerful. "This is Commander Ryan Solis of the Sol Ascendancy. The Dominion's core fleet has been neutralized. The war will end soon. We offer aid to all peaceful worlds." The chamber filled with stunned silence. The council members stared at one another. The name Sol Ascendancy was unknown. A senior member stood. "Commander Ryan Solis, we request your presence for dialogue. The council wishes to discuss alliance and peace terms," but the voice simply replied, "Acknowledged. A representative will arrive shortly." Then the transmission ended. Hours later, a single ship appeared in orbit above Aris Prime. Sleek and silver-black, its surface shimmered like living metal. It was small compared to other warships, yet its presence alone filled sensors with unreadable energy. Mira was chosen to lead the welcoming party. As she stood on the landing platform, she tried to calm her racing heart. She didn't know if she was ready to see him again. The ship descended silently, its engines humming with deep resonance. A light beam extended to the ground and 3 figures emerged. The first 2 wore smooth gray armor with glowing lines, their faces hidden behind helmets. The third walked between them without armor, just a simple dark uniform with the same old insignia, a hand and 7 stars. It was Ryan. He looked older but not weaker. His hair carried streaks of silver now, and his expression was calm, the same as before. His eyes, however, held something new: weight, patience, and quiet power. He stepped forward. "Mira of Tereth," he said softly. "It has been a long time." Mira tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She finally managed, "Ryan." He raised a hand gently. "You don't owe me an apology. The galaxy taught us what words cannot." She looked down, ashamed. "I said cruel things. I believed humans were weak," Ryan smiled faintly. "You were not alone. Many believed the same. Perhaps it was good that you did. It gave us time to grow without eyes upon us." The council leaders met Ryan in the grand chamber. The moment he entered, the crowd rose. Cameras from 100 systems broadcast the meeting live. The High Chancellor of the Council spoke first. "Commander Ryan Solis of humanity, we welcome your return to the community of worlds. Your aid against the Vexar saved billions. We owe you a great debt." Ryan shook his head slightly. "You owe us nothing. Humanity did what it must. The Vexar threatened every living being, not just humans. But your weapons," said another member, "your ships, they are beyond anything we've ever seen. How did you achieve such power?" Ryan's voice was calm. "Power is born when pride falls silent. We spent 20 years learning from our failures, alone, without interference, without judgment. We built not for conquest but for survival, for respect." The chamber stayed silent. Everyone listened, even those who had once mocked humans. Then Ryan added, "We watched while the galaxy forgot us, but we did not forget the galaxy." When the meeting ended, Ryan and Mira walked together along the observation hall. Beyond the glass, Aris Prime's lights glimmered like a sea of stars. "Why come back now?" Mira asked quietly. "After all this time?" Ryan looked at the stars. "Because the silence had a purpose. We wanted to see if the galaxy could learn peace without our voice. But when the Vexar returned, we realized silence alone wasn't enough. Sometimes even silence must act." "And after the war?" she asked. "Will humans return to the council?" Ryan shook his head. "No, we will remain separate. The Sol Ascendancy stands beside the council, not within it. We believe unity must be chosen, not forced." Mira nodded slowly. "You've changed so much," he turned to her. "So have you." For a moment they stood without words, 2 beings from different worlds, linked by a mistake long past. News of Ryan's visit spread across the galaxy. Billions watched his short speech replayed across networks. Humanity asks for no tribute, no seat, no rule. "We only ask that every world remember, respect is not a gift. It is earned through silence, patience, and strength." The message echoed through systems where arrogance had ruled for centuries. Species that once saw humans as lesser began to rethink their views. The council declared a day of remembrance for the fallen, and for the silent allies who had returned from the dark. That night, before Ryan's ship departed, Mira met him one last time at the docking bay. "You really are leaving again," she said quietly. "Yes, there's still work to do. The Dominion is not fully gone, and there are worlds beyond your maps that still suffer." Mira stepped closer. "You could stay. The Council would give you anything: power, position, command." Ryan smiled faintly. "We don't seek those things anymore. Power without purpose becomes tyranny. We have learned enough from history." He turned to leave, but Mira spoke again. "Ryan, wait." He looked back. She hesitated, then said softly, "Thank you for saving us." "For saving me," he nodded once. "You saved yourself, Mira. You listened." Then he walked into the ship. The engines came alive with a soft hum, and light surrounded the vessel. Within seconds, it rose into the sky and vanished into the endless dark. From the balcony of the spire, Mira watched the lights fade. She thought of the boy who had once stood in silence, mocked for his humanity. Now he was the leader of a power that could defend the stars. She smiled to herself. He never wanted revenge. He only wanted peace. As the night deepened, she looked at the stars again. Among them, she noticed something faint: 7 stars forming a circle. For a moment it seemed to glow brighter, as if answering her thoughts, and far away beyond the edge of known space, the Sol Ascendancy fleet continued its silent mission, watching, protecting, and waiting, for humanity had not returned to rule. They had returned to remind the galaxy of something it had forgotten: that strength built without pride lasts forever. The galaxy had never seen humans like this before. For 28 years they had been absent, unseen, unheard. And now they returned, not with anger, not with greed, not with weapons of conquest, but with something far greater: purpose. The Sol Ascendancy, Ryan's fleet, moved silently across the edges of known space. It was not just a fleet of ships, it was a symbol. Its presence alone changed how every species thought of humans. No one had ever imagined that the same species they had mocked for weakness could build such mastery of technology, strategy, and diplomacy, all in secret. The galaxy began to realize that the humans had not been silent out of fear. They had been learning, watching, and preparing. On the planet Tareth Prime, Mira watched reports of the fleet's actions. Humans had appeared in war-torn systems and liberated colonies that the Vexar had abandoned. Entire fleets of the Dominion had been intercepted and removed with precision. But the humans did not ask for gratitude. They did not take territories or demand payment. They repaired damaged stations, shared medical supplies, and left their emblem, a hand inside 7 stars on the walls of the liberated worlds. Mira called Sero to her office. "Do you see this?" she asked, pointing to the screen. "They are not just fighting, they are changing minds." Sero nodded. "Every system they help, every fleet they defeat silently. The galaxy is learning that humans are not weak." Mira took a deep breath. "It is more than that. They are teaching the galaxy how to think differently, how to respect strength that comes quietly, not loudly." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the Sol Ascendancy, Ryan Solis stood at the command console. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines and the blinking lights of monitors. "Status report," Ryan said. "Outer Rim colonies secured, Commander," replied his lieutenant. "No Vexar presence detected. Population stable." "Good," Ryan said, his voice calm as ever. "Prepare for the next sector. Remember, no unnecessary engagement. Only intervene when lives are at risk." A young officer, human but born long after Rian had disappeared, looked up. "Commander, do you ever worry the galaxy will misunderstand us? That they will think we are invaders?" Ryan shook his head. "No, they may misunderstand at first. That is natural, but over time they will see our purpose. And when they do, the lesson will last longer than any battle." The officer nodded, impressed by Ryan's quiet wisdom. "I hope to serve like you someday, Commander." "You already do," Ryan said, smiling faintly. "Silence is not absence. Action is." Back on Eris Prime, the Council debated how to approach this new reality. Many species felt uneasy. The humans had acted independently for decades, building power without alliances. Some feared they might demand control in the future, but Mira argued differently. "We have spent centuries teaching humans how to work with others, how to be civilized, yet they were underestimated. And what we see now is what happens when a species is allowed to grow freely. We should not fear them. We should learn from them." Her words did not convince everyone. Some still called the Sol Ascendancy a threat. But for those who had watched their fleets silently save colonies, it was clear that the humans were not here to dominate, they were here to teach. to protect, and to prove that strength can come from patience and wisdom, not arrogance. The true power of the humans became evident in the outer sectors, where Vexar remnants had fled. One system, Orpheus IV, had been abandoned for years. Its cities were in ruins and its people had begun to lose hope. When a human ship appeared in orbit, the citizens at first feared attack, but Rian had chosen a careful approach. He sent small teams to the planet, human and alien volunteers who had been trained in diplomacy, medicine, and engineering. They rebuilt infrastructure, restored water and power systems, and helped the people regain trust in governance. The Vexar remnants tried to strike back, but human forces anticipated every move. They did not kill for revenge, they neutralized the threat with minimal force, capturing enemy soldiers and releasing them with clear instructions. Do not return. By the time the humans left Orpheus IV, the citizens had rebuilt their cities, schools were reopening, and the people had begun to see humans not as fragile newcomers but as teachers, protectors, and friends. The Sol Ascendancy's symbol was carved into the rebuilt city hall, a hand within 7 stars. It was not a claim of ownership, it was a mark of guidance and care. Mira watched all of this through reports and transmissions. She realized the full magnitude of what humans had accomplished. They've done more than defeat the Vexar, she told Sero. They have changed the galaxy's view of humanity itself. No one will ever doubt humans again. They've earned respect without demanding it. They've shown what it means to act with wisdom and patience. Sero nodded slowly. It's like a silent revolution. They didn't fight for power. They fought for recognition of who they are. Mira's mind went back 28 years. She remembered her own arrogance in the academy. She had mocked a boy for being human, thinking he was weak, and now that boy, no, that man, was shaping the galaxy in ways no one could ignore. I hope I can learn from them, she whispered, before it is too late. Back aboard the flagship, Ryan looked at the stars. Each system they visited had taught him something. Every species they protected had strengthened their alliance quietly. His lieutenant approached. Commander, the Council continues to request a formal meeting. They want to negotiate alliances with the Sol Ascendancy. Ryan shook his head. We are not here to negotiate for ourselves. We will advise, guide, and protect, but we will not become part of their politics. Humanity's lessons must be free from bias or corruption. That is the only way we maintain integrity. The lieutenant looked unsure. And if the Council disagrees? Ryan smiled faintly. Then they will learn as we have. Power built with silence is patient. It waits, it watches, and when the time is right, it acts. Meanwhile, rumors of human power spread throughout the galaxy. Some alien species had once laughed at humans, calling them fragile and emotional. Now they whispered of the Sol Ascendancy as a force not to be challenged. Stories emerged of human ships arriving where the Vexar had caused devastation, ending conflicts without bloodshed. Of humans giving tools and knowledge to worlds that had lost hope. Of fleets that seemed to appear from nowhere, strike swiftly, and vanish again. For many, the humans were more than a species. They were a lesson. The galaxy began to realize that strength could be quiet, power could be controlled, and wisdom could be more valuable than weapons. Mira, alone in her quarters one night, reflected on all that had happened. She thought about the boy she had insulted 28 years ago. She had thought his silence was weakness. She now understood the truth. Silence was never weakness. Patience was never idle. And when humans finally acted, their power was unstoppable. Not because it was loud, but because it was deliberate and just. She picked up a small model of the academy chamber she had kept for years. It reminded her of the moment she had laughed at Ryan. The memory no longer made her angry. It made her humble. Perhaps, she whispered, the galaxy has more to learn than I thought. In the far reaches of the galaxy, Ryan's fleet continued its work. They moved silently, carefully, teaching by example. They restored trade routes, healed systems torn apart by the Vexar, and defended peaceful worlds from attack. Their presence reshaped the galaxy without claiming a single throne, without demanding allegiance, without fear of reprisal. The Sol Ascendancy's actions were not about revenge or glory. They were about showing the universe that humans were not fragile, that patience was power, and that wisdom could shape entire civilizations. And as each system was restored, Each fleet defeated and each life saved. The galaxy began to see the humans not as a weak species to be dismissed, but as an enduring force to be respected. Mira watched the reports coming in, her heart full of awe. She knew one thing for certain: the silent revolution had begun, and it was led by a man who had once walked away in silence. Ryan Solis, the human who had been underestimated. The human who had returned to teach the galaxy what it had long forgotten. The human who had shown that true strength needs no proclamation, only action. The galaxy had changed. The Vexar Dominion, once a shadow across the stars, had been driven back to the unknown depths of space, their fleets destroyed or scattered, their systems liberated and their power broken. They were no longer the threat they once were. And in the aftermath, the galaxy realized that the true force behind this transformation had not been fleets of alien warriors or vast armies of the Council. It had been humans. The sole ascendancy, the silent guardians, remained unseen for the most part, moving from system to system, leaving peace in their wake. They did not seek recognition. They did not ask for reward. They simply acted. On Eris Prime, Mira of Tareth walked through the quiet halls of the Council spire. The city below was calm, lights glowing softly against the dark sky. Reports had arrived from every system the humans had touched. Messages of restored worlds, safe populations, and recovered trade routes. Every report carried the same note. The sole ascendancy had left no permanent mark except one, their emblem, a hand inside 7 stars. It was not a sign of ownership, only of care. Mira paused at the balcony, looking at the stars beyond. She thought of Ryan, the boy she had insulted so many years ago. The human who had chosen silence instead of argument, who had disappeared without a word, only to return decades later to show the galaxy the power of patience and wisdom. She whispered to herself, "He was never weak. He was waiting for the right moment to teach us all." Inside the Sole Ascendancy flagship, Ryan Solis stood at the command console, watching a holographic map of the galaxy. Every system they had saved, every fleet they had guided, every world they had rebuilt. It all formed a network of order in a galaxy that had known chaos for centuries. A lieutenant approached. "Commander, the Council has requested a formal presence from the Ascendancy to discuss post-war planning." Ryan shook his head. "We will advise them where needed. But we do not sit in the Council. Our lesson is not about rule. It is about demonstration. Strength built in silence cannot be corrupted by politics." The lieutenant paused. "And if they do not understand?" Ryan's calm eyes swept across the stars. "Then they will learn in time. The galaxy always remembers those who act with purpose." Meanwhile, Mira received the final reports from the outer systems. Entire colonies that had once been abandoned were now thriving. Children played in streets rebuilt by human engineers, marketplaces hummed with activity, and knowledge lost during the Vexar occupation was restored. She read a message from a governor on one of the liberated planets. The humans did not demand tribute or control. They did not ask for loyalty. They simply acted to restore what was broken. We have learned to respect them, not for their weapons, but for their choices. Mira's hands trembled as she placed the message on her desk. "This is what I should have seen long ago," she murmured. "Not weakness, not pride, but strength and patience." Ryan's fleet continued its mission silently. Every system saved, every life protected, every enemy fleet neutralized without unnecessary bloodshed. It was a demonstration of what humans had always believed. Power and strength were not shown by domination, but by restraint and action. In one particularly remote sector, the Ascendancy stopped at a system still recovering from Vexar attacks. The citizens were hesitant at first, wary of strangers. But the humans moved carefully, helping rebuild infrastructure, training local security forces, and restoring communications. One child approached a human officer, holding a broken toy. "Will you fix it?" she asked. The officer knelt, taking the toy. "Of course," he said, smiling. "Everything can be fixed with patience." The child's eyes lit up, and Mira, observing through a secure communication link, felt a warmth she had not felt in decades. These were the humans she had underestimated. These were the humans who had returned to teach by example, not by words. On Eris Prime, a meeting of the Council was called to discuss the future of the galaxy. Representatives from every species gathered, their voices filled with awe and respect for the humans who had saved countless lives. Mira stood and spoke. The humans we once laughed at, we once underestimated, have returned, not for power, not for control, but to show us all a lesson. They remind us that true strength lies in patience, wisdom, and action. They have changed the galaxy without ruling it. This is a power we cannot ignore. A murmur of agreement swept through the chamber. Some delegates still feared the Sol ascendancy, but even they could not deny the truth. Humans had proven that strength could exist quietly, patiently, and without pride. Far beyond the core systems, Ryan's ship rose silently above the clouds of a liberated world. He looked down at the people rebuilding, learning, living again. A young officer approached him. "Commander, will we return to the Council? Will humanity take a seat among the galaxy's leaders?" Ryan shook his head. "No, we do not seek a seat, a throne, or recognition. We act because it is right. We show strength because the galaxy needs to see it. This is our role. This is our duty." The officer paused. "And after the war? Will the ascendancy remain?" Ryan looked at the stars. "We will remain where we are needed. Our work is not complete. There will always be darkness to push back, but we will not demand tribute. We will not seek reward. We will simply act as we have always done." The officer nodded, understanding finally dawning. The human way was not about conquest. It was about enduring, protecting, and teaching without words. Back on Eris Prime, Mira walked alone in the observation hall of the spire. The lights of the city reflected on the glass, but her eyes were on the stars beyond. She thought of Rian, the human boy she had insulted so long ago. He had chosen silence, and in that silence he had grown stronger than she could have imagined. For decades, humans had been underestimated. And yet, in their quiet, they had built a force capable of saving the galaxy. Mira whispered to herself, "I thought words could harm or define a person. I see now. It is actions, patience, and wisdom that define them." She smiled faintly. For the first time, she understood the true lesson humans had brought. Not through loud declarations, not through victories shouted across the stars, but through measured, deliberate, and quiet strength. As night fell, the message from the ascendancy arrived across the council systems. It was simple. We act where needed. We protect where we can. We are silent but present. Remember this: strength built with patience is eternal. The words were not a warning. They were not a threat. They were a statement of truth. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, listened. In the weeks that followed, humans continued their work. Planets rebuilt, colonies flourished, and wars left in the wake of the Vexar dominion ceased. Other species began to understand that power and influence could exist without domination. Diplomacy and restraint could be more powerful than any fleet or weapon. Mira often reflected on her own arrogance from decades past. She had mocked a human, thinking him weak. Now she saw clearly how wrong she had been, and she realized something else. It was not just humanity who had learned. The galaxy itself had been taught a lesson in respect, patience, and true strength. Finally, the day came when Ryan would depart from the Council's attention. His fleet, though still active across remote sectors, no longer required oversight or coordination with any species. He met Mira one last time at the docking bay. The sun of Eris Prime shone gently across the platform. "You are leaving again," Mira said softly. Ryan nodded. "Our work is never done, but we do not need to stay to remind the galaxy of what we represent. Actions leave marks longer than words ever could." Mira's voice trembled. "You saved millions. You saved the galaxy. And you never asked for anything in return." Ryan looked at her calmly. "We did what was right. That is reward enough. Silence is our choice, action is our proof." And with that, he turned toward his ship. Engines flared softly. Light enveloped the vessel, and within moments it rose into the sky and disappeared among the stars. Mira stood on the platform long after the ship vanished. She thought of the boy who had once stood quietly in the academy, mocked for being human. He had returned as a man who changed the galaxy, not with anger, not with pride, but with measured, silent power. She whispered to the wind, "You were never weak, Ryan. You were always extraordinary." Far away, the Sol Ascendancy continued its silent mission, watching over the galaxy. Humanity had returned not to rule but to teach, to protect, to show that patience, wisdom, and deliberate action could shape civilizations. And the galaxy, for the first time, understood that humans were not fragile. They were unstoppable, not because they shouted, but because they waited, acted, and endured. The lesson of the silent human of Ryan Solis was complete. The weight of silence had changed the galaxy forever.